Hello and welcome to an all new episode of Men and Women Talk, the Mars Venus Show. I am one of your hosts, Kente, all the way live from Los Angeles, California. This is episode number 163. I am joined by my beautiful, talented, now she has a baby, co-host Shannon Ford Jefferson. How you doing?
What up, though?
So, how do you keep this hidden from us, this baby?
Mind the business that pays you, sir. But I'm good, though. I appreciate all of the love.
All right. So,
How are you? How was your weekend?
my weekend was fine. You know, some drama. I'm not gonna go into it, but for the most part, it was a good weekend. And happy Father's Day, belated Father's Day to all the fathers out there.
Yeah.
That was yesterday.
Hi, Kai, the adult version. Happy Father's Day to you again.
And some of us whose fathers are not with us now. Uh, I always say it's a club that you don't want to be in.
That's
Mhm.
true.
But I definitely, I always think about my father. But even yesterday, like I thought even more so about my pops and
Mhm.
how much I miss him and all of that stuff. So I just wanted to get that out there. All right, so now that that's done, let's introduce our panel. I'm gonna start off with our returning champ. This brother, he's from the great state of Georgia. And he's been on the show several times. We always love to have him on. One and only Anthony. How you doing, man?
Peace, man. I'm good, man. I'm still black, and everything's good.
He's still black. That's right. You know what though, man? That's a real thing because like 3 weeks ago I was like white for like the afternoon. So I was
I
still
mean,
glad the melanin came back though. I was like scared.
uh, I'm not out here doing the Vibes Cartel or the Sammy Sosa, So, nah, I'm good, man.
That's
If anything, I'm trying to do the opposite because my legs are a little light and I'm tired of walking around looking like uncooked chicken. So, we're gonna hit the beach and get some of this sun, this vitamin D out here, pause, for my legs, my kneecaps. We gonna
I love the pause. That was pretty. Yeah,
I'm good.
that's hilarious. You know what? Damn. So that should be standard, right? Anytime you mention you want vitamin D as a man, you got to put that pause in there. So, but
I mean, you don't have to, but
you know,
because they say I'm not anti anything over here, but I'm just,
Look, I
that's
want
just
some
an
vitamin D
affirmation.
too.
you don't need
Hey,
to.
if you
Hey,
can,
no pause. You, I might have to add a pause in there. You know what I'm saying?
I'm
Just
supposed to put that on a T-shirt, so just so y'all know, it's already been taken. I was gonna say I want some vitamin D. And it's gonna have a picture of a sun, and it's gonna have a picture of y'all know what it's gonna have a picture of.
hey man, I just be safe and be
hey,
careful out
look,
here is what I'm saying.
I like that.
Um,
I like vitamin V. How about that? So
I mean, I can make you a T-shirt to say that too.
vitamin P. So
just make me a T-shirt to say I love tacos.
I'm gonna make you a T-shirt to say, "Give me that, give me that."
also joining, also joining the show, we have another returning champ. This brother is all the way from the country known as Canada.
What
Uh,
up?
it is the one and only Ryan. What's up, Ryan?
Hey,
How's it
Ryan.
going?
You know. Let me ask you this quick question. You're not just Ryan to us. You realize that you're Ryan from Canada. There's always that caveat, like Ryan.
Yeah, Ryan from
That's not
Canada.
even that. That's not even the best part. He is
I thought he
Ryan,
was Ryan Perez.
creator of Hustles on TV,
Yeah,
There you go.
living,
no.
There you go.
All due respect to
living
that.
here, legend.
All due respect to that. You know how much I love Hustle Zone and what you're doing, but you still like Ryan from Canada. So that is like part of your thing.
Ryan, I put some respect on it. He didn't put none on it. Just,
Yeah,
I got nothing but respect for
and
Ryan.
Maya, I got you, girl. I'll let you know when the orders are available. I'm gonna talk to my teacher. Got you. Y'all look. The hustle about to be real up in this
But
season.
I'll say this about Ryan from Canada is you are a hustler, man, in the best way possible, and I really love what you've been doing, man. And you know, it's only gonna grow.
Yeah.
Only gonna grow. All
Yeah.
right. So,
But
so
thank you.
tonight we've been giving like the brothers a lot of love. So tonight we're gonna be giving the sisters some love.
We
And
have been giving the brothers a lot of love. So
yeah, and I love it. I love it being a brother. You know, I love it. So I'm gonna let Shannon kick off the show. So here's the mic.
it's about women. So you can lead it if you want.
Yeah, but you know, this is
This is the second part of why we love. Last week we did men, so this week we are doing women.
Mhm.
We are going to talk about why the men on the panel and my co-host love Black women. And if anybody wants to know, this segment of the show is sponsored by Newman's Hot Takes. Says I like my chocolate in human form. Let's see if I can see that a little bit. There you go.
Okay, that's what's up. All right.
That's what's up.
Let's get a crack a lack. Who wants to go first? I already know. We
well,
got a song and dance about why he loves Black women. We're gonna do his intro song and everything.
okay. Let me say something before we actually get to our panelists.
Go for it.
And I normally don't like to kick it off when we have guests, but you know, I feel like one of the reasons why we created the show initially was I felt like there was not a lot of love that we were showing as far as Black people to each other. Um, you know, there was a lot of programs where it was like brothers bashing sisters and sisters bashing brothers, and I just never wanted that energy here. And I feel like it's so important to hand out the love. So when Shannon said that she wanted to do this program, I was all for it because that's what I'm about. So there's so many reasons why I love Black women, and I could just go on, and I will to a certain point. But I wanted to start off there. So, Anthony, is there something you just want to come out with?
Come out with. I mean, like I said, my whole intro was the brown skin lady. You know, brown skin lady,
Mhm.
where you going? This goes to the brown skin lady. I like the way you walk. I like the way you walk. Yeah. So yeah, in regards to that, man, we can start on just the physical format. It's like watching God incarnate. And I'm not even saying that in a pandering tone. Like I admire just all the shapes and the sizes while, let me also be in my humanness. I do have my preferences, but I still love and adore and advocate for just the Black woman because without a Black woman, I cease to exist. So, what I mean, it's just so important to always show that love, man. I don't want it to be what Dave Chappelle calls deficient of vitamin love. I'm getting choked up over here. My
Yeah.
bad. But honestly, I mean, so in a more serious tone, I feel like a Black woman was my first God.
Mm.
That was my life that created me, that carried me, that incubated, that nurtured, that helped me develop internally as far as being inside of her, in even more so externally to continue that nourishment, to continue that those provisions. Like this is what I saw my first example of strength from. This is what I saw my first examples and continuous examples of perseverance and endurance and just the fight of having to, you get knocked down, get back up, dust yourself off and try again. And I mean, the first examples I've had of making shit happen, like get it done. And I move the way I move largely in part because of my first God before I even had an even understanding of whatever the dichotomy of religion and things of that nature. It was my mom. You know what I mean? My pops didn't raise me, my mother did. So the majority of the way that I think, how I think, or even that I think, is coming from, what I mean, I guess the inspiration of being inspired by, what I'm saying, my mom. So I work as hard as I do because of my mother. I kind of just, sometimes I feel like it might be a little backwards, but it's like Well, shit, my mom ain't quit, and obviously she's older than I am. Unless it's on some don't be a menace in South Central while drinking your juice in the hood. Where the father was younger than the son. However that worked, but this ain't that case. But I'm like, if she can do it, I have no excuse. If my mother can continue to go and persevere through all of these different hardships and obstacles, then I ain't got no excuse. Like, what am I doing? I don't have an excuse or a vision of being lazy or being defeated or being any of those things. I feel like I don't have that option because I've never seen that come from my mother. And while as parents, you probably shield your children from, a lot of the hurts or personal things that you're going through. My mom's always talked to me as, I don't know if my mother ever talked to me in like baby talk. She's always talked to me in terms of just very clear and very direct on what it is that is going on, what's happening, what she needs from me. And so I respond to that, those direct and non-beating around the bush. So I guess, again, a lot of what I have to offer to the world, or even to offer in return to a black woman, is because I got it first from a black woman.
All right. I love it. What about you, Ryan?
Well, for me, my experience, I was raised by black women. A typical story. Your father wasn't around. Kind of, like my dad was here and there, but my mom and my grandma, were the strong pivotal forces in my life, as long as and alongside my auntie Lorna and Belinda, Monique. There's just so much women around me, and all of them were strong. You never ever felt that. You never saw them you never saw my mom or my grandma cower, to anything. Anytime my grandma, she was just telling me about, like, with all the recent protests, she's like, she saw me online and she's like, yeah, I see that you're advocating and stuff. And she's like, you know what, to be honest with you, Ryan, she was one of the first black women in Calgary here when she, I forget when she came. I think it's in the 60s or the 70s. And she said, you know what, I never really experienced racism here. And she had white friends and whatnot. And I was like, oh, really? You didn't experience racism? She's like, nah, because I cussed their ass out. Da 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 da. So she'd go to the grocery store and I remember my grandma, she'd be like, can I cuss?
Yes.
She, and if the woman was being rude to her and condescending, and what that feels like, right? Being black, you walk up to a clergy and someone's just being snooty with you. My grandma wouldn't take her 2 seconds, and she'd be like, fuck you and your thing, blah, 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 blah. And she would just cuss the person out, and we're all like, but my grandma, everywhere she went, my grandma commanded respect. And, my grandma taught me how to cook. She taught me how to clean my house. She'd teach us to get on our knees, wash the floors, wash the walls. And she taught me how to iron my clothes and all that stuff, and then that translated into me now that any relationship that I'm in, I provide even that much more value, because my grandma and my mom instilled so many different things. So I believe that black women are, like Free said, black women in themselves are God, because I think the original human beings were black women, because that would be like the whole Adam and Eve story for me doesn't make sense. Because if Adam and Eve had a kid, then there would be incest, right? So if a black woman was first on the planet, she could create more human beings, and the reality is that there's nothing other than a black woman. Everything else it works in tandem, because cells work the same way. Cells divide themselves. Plants do the same thing. So a black woman is a human version of a cell. So it gets deep, to the power of the woman and what her impact is in everything that is around us. And even in her DNA, she can give birth to all different types of human beings. Native, I forget what you call that. I forget what the name is, but Black women in their DNA have the power to create all of humanity. And there's no other women on this planet that can do that. So, I think that Black women are, and you know what? Can I say one thing? I wasn't a part of the LA riots, and when the riots happened in 2015, I wasn't part of that either. But these riots that just happened with George Floyd, I've seen so much Black women just stand up and take on the movement, and they do it fearlessly. They don't care. Like, here I am checking myself. Oh, should I call this person out? Should I do this? And my sister's on the side, like, man, I'm ready to go to war. I'm ready. I'm ready to fight a motherfucker. And I just have just a profound respect for Black women for leading this revolution. They care about us. They love us, and I'm so glad to be a part of this podcast, because of that.
All right.
Did I talk too much? I'm sorry, but
No.
That was perfect. I'm here for it. We've been doing a lot of shows geared towards Black men, but I think it's essential and it's necessary to pause a beat and honor and uplift and encourage the sisters. So no.
And if I could even be carnal for a moment, let me be just a little carnal, maybe a little crass. My joint don't even get hard if she ain't Black. I'm just saying, like, that's I just leave that where that is.
Hilarious.
It's that real. It's that real. It's that serious.
That's what's up. I mean, I'm definitely dedicated to Black women. I don't know if maybe I need to check my dedication. I'm not to that point, but I definitely hear what you're saying. No, but like I said, I love Black women. I first started off talking about my mother, right? My mother and my father were a great team. My father was an activist, a community person, and my mother was like his backbone. You know what I mean? And having that great woman by your side really, it made him a better person in what he did. You know what I mean? And they worked together as a tandem, as a team. And that's the first thing that I learned as a young age is that, I feel like relationships are about empire building, right? When you get married to somebody, this is a partnership, hopefully in your empire, whatever you want to define as your empire. And you want the person who is going to be by your side, up for that task of empire building. A woman wants her man to be there, and a man better want that for the woman that they're with. So Black women who I've known over the years, some in a romantic sense, some just from afar, just seeing them and their walk, I've always appreciated how a lot of Black women are wonderful when it comes to that whole empire building. And I got to see it as from my mother. They had a great empire together, and it was because and the backbone of it was my mother. And so when we talk about this love for Black women, I think it's just so important that the love that we've always had for each other, that unfortunately, I would say, especially in the last 10 years, is starting to erode, that we have to do a better job of promoting that. And like I said, it doesn't have to be necessarily all in the romantic sense. You don't have to love a black woman because you're having a relationship with them. But black women in general need our support as a community of black men. We need to support black women. And we need to start looking at the way that we protect our black women as really goes to, like, if you can't protect your women, and I'm like I said, I don't even mean just your daughter or your niece or your wife or your girlfriend, but if we can't protect our women, what does that say about us? You know, that's like, to me, that's basic man shit. You know what I'm saying? And so we have to see each other as part of the same. You know, it's not us versus them. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, in our community, we've allowed that to permeate. You know, this us versus them. It's like, what are you talking about? It's like, you know what? If you're on the Titanic, there is no great seats. You know what I'm saying? So this whole idea of who has it worse or better or whatever is bullshit. We all are victims of this society and the system, you know. And once we can get to the point where we understand that we are in it together, I think that will help our community. So one thing I want to talk about is when we talk about our love for black women, and I believe Anthony might have been on a show where I kind of asked a similar question that I'm about to ask, but I don't think Ryan was. So, but you know, some people probably didn't see that show. I want to say that you were on it. Can you guys remember the first black woman who was famous that was your crush? You know, like all right, talk about it. Lisa Bonet.
Lisa Bonet is a star child. She is magical. That's probably like my first celebrity girl crush, or like woman crush, um, that I can immediately pinpoint. I'm sure if I went back and sat down and searched within the recesses of my minds and closed my eyes and traveled through the synaptic space, that I could actually probably come up with somebody that precedes her. However, in this sense, you know, I mean, I think Cosby Show was still on and kind of prevalent, and you know, I'm not of me.
You said last year.
I can. Well, I mean, this is all the same show. Felicia Rashad to this day can get the works, all Pizza Hut. But honestly, before that, it was probably like Sheila E. And I don't know, is she light skinned? I don't know like exactly, but I remember just those. I mean, they were lighter, but also darker complected. Like, yeah, I had to have been single digit age having a crush on Sheila E. The way she was just like, I couldn't put the words together then, but she was just magical in that sense of how she was able to create the music, the way that she did, just that energy is probably what I was able to identify of about her in that arena. And then getting older and starting to see, you know, different things, or being attracted to like the Rosie Perez's, and then getting a little bit older and the Tashina Arnolds, and you know, Stacey Dashes, you know, when I'm in my teenage years and stuff like
Javier
that.
In the chat says the Stacey Dash count.
Right. She did when I was a teenager. I don't know if she counts so much now, because I think we might have traded her. And I think Candace Owens, if she hasn't been traded, I think she's also on that list,
right,
for trade in the. But I would like to say probably, as far as having a awareness of a crush, it probably was Lisa Bonet.
Just as a side note, Candace Owens, I would trade her for a pack of Newports, and I don't even smoke.
Oh, sheesh. Sheesh.
Right.
The
They're not giving them
hundreds.
away.
The new
They're not giving them away
100s.
randomly.
Cheese and rice.
Yeah. What about you, Ryan? Who was your?
You know, he said it. He said it. Felicia Rashad. I mean, and her sister Debbie Allen. You know, I don't know.
Oh
There's something.
yeah.
If you look at Felicia, you look at her pictures from back in the day, like everything about her, just you know, everything about her is electrifying.
Yeah.
You know, the way she speaks, the way she looks. And Sheila E. Like again, like these are he said it, you know, he said it out of his mouth. Sheila E. I love Sheila E. I think that you know, the way that she plays her drums, I think the vibe that she like the vibe that she gave off when she was you know, back in the 80s and stuff like that with Prince, you know, always had I don't know. There was just a vibe, right? And who else?
Can I just, as a side note, Prince had a Rasta, but
Oh yeah.
Apollonia. This dude was-
And like, you know, but you get conditioned for all the light skinned girls because that's all that you saw at the time, right?
Mhm.
And I think that like I always thought like even what's the name again? I can't pronounce her name. Apollonia.
That's
Did I
what-
say it right? Apollonia, and then
Apollonia,
Vanity.
oh yeah,
You know,
she died the same year as Prince,
yeah.
like maybe a month or two before Prince.
yeah. So and then, but then that one girl, I'm really bad with names, but she's like, I like your smile, do 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 do. Shanice,
Oh, Shanice.
you know,
Yeah,
Shanice,
yeah.
and you know, and I think as I and Stacey Dash, like you know, that was kind of the again, these were only the women, and I like a lot of men, like at the time, everybody was like, "Yo, Halle Berry." I never really had that vibe with Halle Berry.
I liked Halle.
Yeah.
I liked Halle Berry, but see,
Right.
Halle Berry started out as a crackhead. And I don't even say that to be funny, but she did. You know what I mean? Like she was, I suck your dick. And I'm just like, dang, that's crazy. How you got to start out your career like that. But then later on, I'm like, oh yeah, Halle Berry's bad, but it's other people. I guess even now, it's like from then to now, like there are certain celebrities now, like Nicole Bahari. Hella fire crush on her. Like she's on like Sleepy Hollow. She's been on plenty movies. And I can't even this is so I feel like the options or the visibility is so much higher now than it was before. But I feel like who gave a variety, my first like variety of the spectrum of black was Teddy Riley, Rex and Effects, Shake Your Rump. If you remember that, or actually before them,
Yeah,
Crew.
Yeah,
You remember
that's
that
right.
album cover?
Mhm.
They're on the beach. They had the spectrum on that. You know what I mean? So it wasn't hard because me growing up or living in DC, Chocolate City. I was surrounded by, I guess, blackness. PE was out there. You know what I mean? 911's a joke in your town and all that. I'm seeing all of these. I guess these images. So I was kind of still inundated. I was for a small bit. My mother said I was color struck. But I think by the time I got to like middle school, it started to kind of phase out. And high school, it was definitely gone because I remember the first like pavement black sister that I was like overwhelmed by. She was super chocolate, skin was smooth as I don't know what, had the Tommy Hilfiger tennis dress on, the gold herringbone with the bob micro braids or whatever and what have you, had like two open faced goals in the mouth. I was just like my brain broke because I was like, I have never seen somebody so goddamn fine in my life. Like and her name was Adina. Shout out to Adina Howard, but it was
yeah, big shout out to Adina Howard. Well, I had a
but even those, you know what? Maybe Adina, Yeah, I had a crush on Adina Howard too, but I mean, I feel like that's for obvious reasons because look at what she was kind of putting out during my adolescence when my hormones were raging. So, um, yeah, I could talk the rest of like 2 hours about all the different black women that have just made an impact on my
Nia
life.
Long.
Haryana.
Neil Long, too. Yeah.
She was like
Oh, Nia Long,
she was
man.
like for a
Fresh
period of
Prince.
time like the like love interest always in everything. Like she was, I called her the Black Meg Ryan, you know, her because she was like, you know, she was always you know, and everything. And I think Sanaa Lathan probably took her spot afterwards. After that,
Sanaa Lathan
right.
and Disappearing Acts is what sealed it for me. Um, Wesley Snipes, like that was and even that Disappearing Acts. If you watch that movie and see how pivotal she was as a black woman to help Wesley Snipes get over
Mm-hmm.
himself, like that was really he was blocking himself and he had to get over himself, and he almost really lost out on her, like straight up, which many of us unfortunately come across and run into. Um, and having that friction between the divisiveness of our different societal experiences and now trying to bring it together to coagulate, and it's almost like oil and water, not knowing that, like you said earlier, we're on the same side, which is actually what then Shannon talked about a couple days ago in the midst of this whole J. Cole and No Name spat. And it's like, why are we trying to out hurt, like who see
Mm-hmm.
who hurt the most? We both hurt. Like we both fucked up. You know what I mean? We both.
There ain't no good spots.
So
There ain't
let's
no good spots on
not
the
try to see
Titanic.
whose pain is the worst. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like pain is relative. So what I think might be light that you went through in comparison to me, you might think is what I'm going through is light to you, but pain is still pain. You know what I mean? Pain is relative, and how you perceive it, how you receive it, how you deal with it. But understanding there, we are still on the same side, and having to try to do away with these Willie Lynch later ideas of, because that's essentially what's happening. I feel like it's whether that was real or not, we're still in that particular state where the man is taken from the home while women are having to fight for themselves. Well, they're definitely fighting for themselves now. Why we see them on the front lines of the protests? Because residual effects from these men not being in the home, or not being present in their lives, not
Yeah.
specifically in the home, but not being present in the community, not being present in in each other's lives. And so who you got to defend to? Who you got to depend on? It seems to be much easier for women to get together and galvanize each other and be out there. We're gonna form a protest, we're gonna make some t-shirts and some signs, we're gonna have the bullhorn, we're gonna be out here and we're gonna be marching, fist up, Angela Davis, we out here leading the charge. And it's like,
Mhm.
where these men at?
And this is a shout out. This shows about how we love black women. Shannon, you got to give her a shout out. The earrings are nice. Love the earrings,
Mhm.
Shannon.
She always got
You.
good hair.
You're
Yeah.
welcome. I made those.
Oh, oh,
Yeah, I made
oh,
those.
I
You're
was about
welcome.
to say, that's dope.
No, I'm just,
That's funny.
I'm just
But you know, I remember I saw this interview fairly recently. It was with Kevin Hart, and he was talking about how his daughter, who goes to a predominantly white school, how she was like having a hard time because all of her friends, their hair is different, and they don't have to go through some things with their hair, something to that effect. And he was talking about as her father, how he had to wanted to reiterate her that she was beautiful, and that and to really speak to whatever she was going through, as far as not believing that she was as beautiful as her friends who are not black. And I want you guys to talk about you know um, uh, this idea of black not being beautiful. Like we see like the 50 most beautiful people, and it'll be like 49 of them will be like Caucasian, and then one will be
mm,
like a mixed sister. You know what I'm saying? So like every once in a while they'll have a Lupita on there, or or whatnot. But for the most part, you don't really see people reflect. It's not a real reflection of us, right? And I know that has to weigh on a lot of people who, it's like, damn, my dog shit. And a lot of sisters are, I don't feel like are appreciated for their beauty And I just want you guys to talk to sisters talk about that, as well as just talk about how you feel about the way that our society is as a whole. How we don't, we make black women feel, well, not me, but I'm talking about the society, make black women feel like they're inferior to the European aesthetic.
I think I'll speak for myself. I didn't have the privy to live in the States where there was more black um at the time, and there were times where we had cable and sometimes we didn't, and there wasn't too many shows with black people on it. And you have to think during those times in the early, like late 80s, early 90s, that's the only programming you got. And when you live in a city where there's all white people, and you're not going to get even in the radio, they weren't playing a lot of hip hop music and stuff like that. So we would have to listen to the college radio in order to get our weekly fix of hip hop and R&B. I'd have my cassette tape and I'd put it into the ghetto blaster, press record, and then that would be my I would make my own little mixtape. But that was the only access that I would get to black culture or to get access to anything black. And I always ask myself, like, how come you see like all the ads? Like my mom used to buy Vogue magazine and stuff like that, and that's all you knew, and and I can't fault myself for like, because in my city there's a lot of white women, and I dated a fair share of them, right? And it's just because there's not a lot of black women to go around, right? And I think that when the internet came and when black culture was more accepted by white folks and people started appropriating, that's where I got more exposed to different types of sisters, and you know just getting more exposure to just differences in not just our sisters, but different types of women, just because it was just more acceptable. And television, we got more channels, and we had and just seeing people in my life too, like my mom's friends and stuff like that. She would always have parties and stuff, and they would bring their daughters over, and I'm like, and I think that the idea for me was that the more I went to Toronto too. And I think Toronto changed me a lot because there's so much black women in Toronto, and it matters. But I think that it's the whole idea of programming. That's why we have to stop buying cable, why we have to stop watching television, and we need to open our minds and and stop looking at those magazines, because they are perpetuating a lot of these stereotypes. They are the ones that are telling you that that the Michael Jackson nose is a beautiful a beautiful thing, right? So that's my opinion.
Well, to be fair to Ryan, when he was dating those white women, he was just going undercover for us, getting in for intel. So,
A mess. An absolute mess.
so Anthony, what about you? How do you feel about, like, this if you are a black person, specifically a black woman, your beauty is almost an afterthought, especially if you don't have like a European aesthetic to it. So just, I know you're not a father yet, but if you had a daughter, like, what kind of conversations would you even, about that kind of stuff to her?
I think now it's a much more, I guess, time to even have these conversations, because the difference between, I think, now and what I see media wise versus when I was elementary school or middle school age is there are so many more images, or there's so much more imagery in the ways of black being beautiful. I can access it so much quicker now than I could have. There was no what I'm old enough to have been able to enjoy pre-internet, pre-dial-up, pre-all. So anything I had to see was library or magazines or in the aisle at the grocery store when you checking out and seeing what's on the cover of Cosmopolitan and Time and whatever else.
Microfiche
I would
at the
have
library.
say what
Dang, I feel old.
my yeah. So now there's so many. You got so many. You have the opportunity to curate your timelines, your feeds to where it's nothing but anything that you want to see positive. There are so many Instagram groups where it's promoting in whichever light you feel deem it to be, whether it's positive or negative. It can be Black Nation, Black Poly Nation, Black this, Black. You can have your black on black on black, 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 black. It could be your whole social media internet feed can be nothing but those images to where you won't. I think now is a time to where there are little girls and little boys that are growing up and not having to have
Mhm.
any real knowledge of what it was like before seeing those images that allowed them to believe or to reinforce their beauty, as opposed to what we looking at when I'm a
Mhm.
kid. We're looking at Cindy Crawford, and what I mean, we're looking at Jane Fonda and like all of these other um types of, I guess, imagery that was not in promotion of black being beautiful, as opposed to now where you got. I don't think the conversation is that difficult. We've already come far beyond the point of Chris Rock putting out the documentary Good Hair and it changing the minds of whoever it needed to change, or at least offering a different perspective as far as what you're doing chemically and what it might be doing psychologically to you to continue to promote yourself or to act in this particular manner. But I'm like, it's all different types of hair journeys, all different types of skincare situations, even now to the point where a few years ago, Carol's Daughter was a big deal that it crossed over into a mainstream platform. Here in 2020, how many more black owned,
Taraji
black, they got
Henson.
black chemists, black, all of this type of stuff. You got all of these to where you have these, it's getting more and more access to these things, so where you're not limited to Shea Moisture or Oil of Olay and all of these different types of things. You have things that are designed and catered and designed with you in mind for on some FUBU shit, for us by us. This is for you. This isn't something that you now have to settle for because nobody is thinking of. You're an afterthought. Now you are the primary and the forethought. And as far as beauty standards go, I feel like now it's even more of a misconception um, societally that black beauty isn't beautiful. Reason being is because all of these other celebrities are doing what now? Emulating these features or trying to attain these features that come naturally on melanated women. So I feel like it's a psychological mind fuck to where if anybody's still at a certain age still struggling with that, because I'm like, look at all the stars that you look at Kylie and look at whoever all of the other stuff, the other people that I can't think of whoever they are right now. But and that's not even just her. That was Angelina Jolie with the collagen injection in the lips. That was somebody who I was hella attracted to pre-Tomb Raider, like Gia and all those types of things. But you see these things where they getting their skin tightened and stretched and moved and trying to get the crow's feet out the way, and you looking like what's that queen's name? I think it's Bernice something. She like 60 some years old, ripped, out here looking like she like 60, 70, and
Mhm.
is out here in the probably in the better shape that she's ever been in her life, and without having to have these concealing creams and all this other stuff that they was this Avon and all the other stuff that they was using. So longer story long, I think the conversation is I think the conversation to me would be easier to
Mhm.
have because of I have so many more resources at my fingertips that I can point her in direction and like I said, tailor make her visual experience to where I don't that's not the confidence or the self-esteem won't be coming from that particular area. Maybe it's coming from the normal where teenagers, hormones are every place. I'm growing into my body. I don't really know how I feel or how to feel. Things are changing. Okay, that's normal stuff that you're gonna have to go through without having to deal with the top layer of
Mhm.
just
I was gonna
erroneous
say too
ideologies.
that like I went to Guyana.
And I digress.
I went to Guyana in 2015 to meet my father for the first time, and he has children everywhere. Yeah, I mean, I have a young sister. I think she's like maybe 10 or 11, and I was like in this, or like I'm in this place called New Amsterdam, and it's just a small town, and they had a few toy stores. So I go into the toy stores and I say, "Where are your black dolls?" They had white dolls everywhere. And because like in Guyana, it's like you got really poor areas that they're literally stuck in time. Like it's like going because the houses are colonial houses, and they're literally stuck in a time. And this was during my birthday, and it was Christmas season. So in every store, they had the same cutout of Santa Claus on every store. Now, when it came to television, they were only watching Hallmark movies that had no black people in it. So, in the Caribbean communities, especially, like you got the old time racism, old time colonization, just because the programming and the stuff that's there, like they don't have the resources to even watch the shows that we watch. So they're still ingrained in wanting to lighten up their skin. Like skin lightening products are heavy in the Caribbean. They're heavy in Africa. They're heavy in India and whatnot. And, I asked the lady in one of the stores for the black doll, and she's like, you know what? The girls don't want that type of doll. The girls just want the white doll because the white doll is pretty. So I didn't end up buying her a doll because I was like, man, this is crazy. Because literally, like Kente, it's like going back in time.
Wow.
You look at all of the walls, they had white dolls for days, not one black doll. And the black girls did not want that doll. So, it just goes to show you that this is not just
It's mental.
it's mental and it's systematic, because if you can't even watch television with black people on it, why would you? And if you think, like, because you have to understand, like, the programming was weird because I was sitting down there with my cousin and we were watching television, and they only had like 3 channels or whatever. They didn't have cable. And this is during Christmas time, and they had songs that I've never heard before. They're like, all I want for Christmas is to have what all I have. And it was about like, it was programming them to believe that what they had was enough, that they shouldn't strive for more. It wasn't the Christmas songs that you would hear here about enjoying yourself. It was like, I know I don't have a lot, but it's okay. And that was pretty much the content that I was watching. And then the Hallmark movies would come on. And then, you watch it and it's just white people just living their life, having nice, fancy things. And this is the introduction to American culture. So that's why a lot of Caribbean people and a lot of people from some of these poor countries want to go to America, because that's the first thing that they see when they're watching these types of programs. And if you see white women always on television, why would you want to, you know what I mean? And they have nice hair and they have all this stuff. And then your mom is telling you, come here, gal. She put on the hot comb and she's like, you know what I mean? Like putting the relaxer. This is a systematic, this is cultural, but it's systematic. This is how we're raising. And, there's a lot of hatred for oneself in the Caribbean community. I know that there's some women that love themselves, but, I grew up with that. I heard that. So, it's deeper than just, being exposed to blackness. It's it's what people are being taught from when they're kids, from their own parents and their grandparents, and even my son, even I'm sorry for talking too much, but even my son, when he was going to get dreads, my grandma's like, man, you want to clean yourself up. You don't want dreads. Go tell your dad to go and cut your hair. You know what I mean? And that's the mentality.
Wow. Yeah, man, it's crazy. You're getting compliments, by the way, Shannon, on the way you're dealing with the baby. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
I will say something before you continue, though. As a woman with lived-in experience as it relates to the standards and the quality of beauty, I agree with Ryan on the part about, it comes from home, and it should. I grew up being the darkest and the tallest in elementary school, and I was reminded of that all the time. Most people hadn't reached puberty yet, but wait till you get to junior high and they caught up. But it's more so the conversation of, and Anthony Free alluded to this as well, that everyone else is emulating what we have.
That's right.
And it's whether it's our hair, our butt, our lips, our style, our vulnerabilities in the way we just, our sex appeal, anything that we have, it is being emulated. And not that other women can't have a level of sex appeal or attractiveness, because they can't. I've seen Hispanic women, I've seen white women with natural booties. I mean, let's just go and keep that thing real. But it becomes cool by society standards when someone other than us does it. And so my PSA today is, I am unapologetically Black, and I am unapologetically a Black woman. Mm-hmm. And everything about me is orchestrated so naturally dope that I don't have to worry about you emulating what's naturally already instilled in me. My ancestors made sure we showed up for us. They showed up for us. And we are an extension of that beauty. We're an extension of that excellence. We're an extension of their wildest dreams. So go and try to emulate it if you want to. Have at it.
Have at it, yes. Now, let me ask this question, and hopefully Anthony will be able to relate to what I'm about to say on some levels, and Ryan. When I was a younger guy, and I date Black women, I don't think I really had appreciation for how the process, if you will. It wasn't really until I got a little older. I was one of those people, you ever heard the saying, I don't care how they make the hot dogs, I just want to eat one. You know what I'm saying? So, I dated these women, these sisters who would do incredible things to get ready to go out with me, right? And, I show up and I just be like, man, I'm looking at my watch, I'm trying to get to the spot. And as I got older, I had much more of an appreciation for what they would do to get ready to go out with me. And as I'm older, I appreciate those things a lot more. And I just want you guys to talk about some of those things that you appreciate, like when a sister's going to go out with you and she got to get fly, and the different little things that she does and all of that to get that flyness just right. So I'll start off with you, Anthony.
So with me, so I will say that I was fortunate in not having to, not really having a space where I didn't appreciate it, because in the same vein of, my first God being a Black woman, which was my mother, also, I guess, spent time in the mode of, I guess, worship before I kind of knew what it was. Like, I grew up greasing my mother's scalp with the pink oil moisturizer and whatever, that parting hair. Like, I grew up knowing, like, 3 years old, parting. So she showed me how to part her hair, probably because she tired from working all day. But I don't know that. It was fun for me at the time. But then being able to take those same, I guess those intimate moments that I had with my mom, and then when I'm of age to be in a relationship as an adult, and my girlfriend at the time was like, "Oh, you know how to grease scalp? Yeah, my mom showed me how to do this. Yeah, I've been doing this since I was whatever years old." Or even down to the process of like me seeing my mom paint her nails and do whatever, like she's about to go out, whether she was going out on a date
Oh.
or she was going out to, my mother is a singer and she's been a singer pretty much my whole life. So going out and getting prepared for a show and seeing that. So I got what I would consider now, by all accounts of the words, a privilege to be a part of, to not only see, but be a part of the process, or even the come down and kind of taking those things off. And my mother soaking her feet in the little foot massage tub, and me going and scrubbing the, the dead skin. Like I've got to see and be a part of those processes. So I definitely appreciate,
Mm,
and that probably helped or assisted in increase my
right.
patience when it's time to go somewhere, and I'm not necessarily looking at my watch for what time. You know what I mean? Oh, okay, this is just, I'm accustomed to it. I'm used to that situation, because when it comes out and I get to be like, we walking out somewhere and I see other brothers looking, I'm like, yeah, no, that's me right there, cuz, you know what I mean? Like, so, but I do get it. Or even seeing all of the rollers, the little clip-on joints, or the curling iron, doing the flat irons and doing that whole nine. I'm like, all right, man, that's just what it is, you know what I mean? And maybe even now, where women have a better sense of time of how long it might take, so they're gonna start a little bit earlier in the day before, or
Right.
start the night before, or even honestly, a lot of the preparation I saw my mom do was for church. That's probably the most. Saturday nights at the end of the week, either preparing Saturday night for church or Sunday evening for the work week. You know what I mean? After church, you go and get everything. You got getting your clothes ready and all that. Okay, my nails look like this or whatever. I'm getting ready to go to work. Let me go ahead and hit Walmart for or whatever store, hit Kroger or Winn-Dixie or whatever for the nails. If I'm gonna do the Lee press-ons, or I'm gonna go get the stockings, the leg stockings, and all that other types of stuff or whatever, and get prepared. So I don't know. I've always had an appreciation for it because of my
That's cool.
participation in it,
Yeah,
being
unfortunately for me, I
inducted
had to,
into it so
I
young.
didn't appreciate it as much, but then I appreciate it quite a bit now. So I just lie about when we have to be there. And then when we get there, be like, oh, it seems like it's just starting. Oh, shoot, I just must have got it mixed up. My bad, baby. But as a side note, I want to know, since you and your mother sing, do you guys ever do a duet? Any
That's
duets together? Do
hilarious.
y'all have a song?
No, we don't have like an official song together. We sing together like all the time. Like I'm always making up some wild type song.
Oh wow,
But her and one of my younger brothers, they perform live together on the stage on several occasions. I just haven't done that. But my mom has often supported me in that. Like she's taken me on auditions where I've had to sing, and
oh,
has been my background vocals, you know what I mean, even while I was probably
that is so
shaking in
cool.
my boots, nervous.
That's cool, man.
So she's kind of been there. It's
Yeah.
definitely in that support.
What
And
about you, Ryan? Do you appreciate what the sisters go through just to go out with you?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like what I've always known, because like I was raised in a house full of women,
Mhm.
and from the hot combs to all the regimes, having to sit there watching my sisters get their hair braided. The thing is like my mom, my grandma, they look great. They look good. Um, and the way my grandma cleans her house, everything is immaculate. My mom's the same way she cooks, immaculate. And finding like, because I just recently, I literally dated Karen. Literally, the last relationship I had was with Karen,
Oh wow,
to the T.
stopping you from bird watching?
Pardon?
Stopping you from bird watching?
Yeah. She's literally like Karen. I'm so glad they came out with that name, because like I was like, oh shit, I was dating a Karen. But the thing is that like my mom, her and I didn't have the best relationship, but my mom just always knew how to dress. She always knew how to carry herself. All of her friends, everywhere we went, they just had a pride in themselves. So I always expected that with the women that I was with, to carry themselves at that level and that degree. So the past relationship that I was in, when she didn't want to, like, you know, just she didn't want to do some of the self-care stuff, I just didn't feel valued as a man. And you know, and like some feminists out there would be like, well, fuck you then, you know, but I really appreciate that. I feel like, you know, a thing about black women is that black women are, you know, black women are decorative. You know, they decorate themselves. And you could see that with when you go to Ghana and you look at the Ghanaian women and you look at the Nigerian women, the way that they put, you know, their clothes on, they put the head wraps, that shit is on point. You know, it strikes you in the eye. It's vibrant, you know, so you expect that, you know, out of, you know, woman that you're dating. So I think that's a part of the process. And just to add a bit more, I think that that's part of this movement that's happening, this revolution that's happening. I hope that corporations give black women time to get to do their hair. You know what I mean? Like, you know, the fact of the matter is that there's no appreciation for our for natural hair. You know, and I'm not saying that women shouldn't be putting wigs on and stuff like that, but the fact is that, you know, I think that there just needs to be the system needs to be more open in dealing with black women in their totality, as opposed to forcing them to having to always put a wig on or put a weave on, you know, because I personally am not attracted to weaves. I like women with natural hair. I find that natural hair is, you know, just brings out another glow, you know, but that's just my opinion, right? Because when I was dating my child's mom, I always hated when she put on the weaves. And I would say, you know what, why don't you, she cut her hair off and she was bald and she started growing in her, you know, her little fro. And she was beautiful, just radiant. And everyone stopped and said, you know, something, right? And I just think that we need to be more appreciation for black women, the way that they carry themselves, and for them to take their time to get themselves ready, because it's always on point when they're ready.
You know what cracks me up too about sisters? I mean, we do it too as brothers, but sisters do it like times 10. They can have a job where they have a uniform, right? But it's never like really the uniform. They'll make it like their own thing, you know. They'll be like at Walgreens, and then everybody else will look like the same, but the sisters will be like, they'll like pimp it out, you know, and add their little, you know, little soul to it and stuff like that, you know. And you'd be like, you know, you look out of uniform there, but it looks dope.
Hey man, you can't help what, you know what I mean? Can't help what God is giving you. I'm just like, hey man, where did she get it from my mama? You can't tie a sweater over that ass or hide it in pajamas. Like, like it's just, hey man. Oh, can I give a shout out as as he was talking? I was thinking about the first introductions to, you know, beauty as a blackness and black women as a whole. I just got to give a major shout out to my first like adult
Yeah,
magazine, which
Curtis was
was
talking
an
about that,
adult
man.
magazine. Let's give it up one time for the Jet Beauties of the Week. Um, because me and my brothers used to collect those and we would trade and we'd fight over which one. Nah, I don't want that. Nah, like get upset and having arguments over which Jet Beauty. Nah, I trade you this one. Nah, you got to give me that one. I want that one with her in it. And just kind of like, I kind of feel sad for the young brothers these days because you don't have that experience. You know what I mean? You don't get to like those were coveted magazines, not just for what was not just for them and the women being dressed almost in bathing suits, but it was still information about blackness in the Jet magazine. And um, I can't say that I was aware of Essence, but I didn't grow up reading Essence. And I probably only read stuff in Jet magazine because of those women that were in there. But you also got to know who they were. This is uh Tasha James. She's from Dallas, Texas, and she wants to be
Hiking
an
and
aspiring
traveling.
physician and all these different things. Like, oh man, Tasha is right. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, oh man, Tasha is dope. You know what I mean? Like, and that was my first like trading cards. Like, so, um, Yeah, I just wanted to give some shout out and acknowledgement to those because those was dope as a young
Shout
black
out.
boy
Shout
in
out.
the
All right, so
80s and
we'd be
90s.
remiss
Shout out to Jet.
to do a show about why we
R.I.P.
love black women without talking about a specific black woman. And this is going to make that person probably blush.
Mama.
So we're going to talk about why we love Shannon.
Oh, I thought we were talking about our mamas.
So, and I'm going to go too. I'm
Stop lying.
going to close it out. But since she's a black woman, right? You're still black, right? You still black? You still black, Shannon?
What do you mean? Heck yeah, I'm still black.
Okay, cool. So we're gonna all talk about what we love about Shannon. So who wants to go first? You want to go first, Ryan?
Yes. Shannon. She has lovely cocoa skin, and and every time she's putting on, like, she doesn't put on, sometimes, like, she'll have some vibrant clothes that she puts on, but her earrings are always on point, and they really she's creative. I think that what I appreciate about Shannon the most is that she's supportive, and she's smart, and she's a leader, and her writing is so beautiful. Like, the art that comes out of her, her expression is amazing. So I think that Kente, you're a lucky man to have her on this podcast.
Thanks,
I think
Ryan.
we're all lucky to have Shannon, because Shannon is kind of like the glue that brings, keeps everybody together, and and you guys do, so great together as a team. So, but those are my comments.
Thank you, Love Heart.
All right, Anthony. Now, you've known her for quite a while, right? Sure. Yeah, you've known
All right,
her
man.
like a while.
Maybe
Who
5?
me? Yeah, it's been a few years. Like it's been, I don't know, 3 to 5. Yeah, it's been 3 to 5. Yeah, something like that. So to me, Shannon is, if I'm rooting for everybody black was a person. Um, I know y'all see the memes and all that, but I mean that with some humor, obviously, but I mean that in absolute seriousness. You know what I mean? Like line upon line, precept upon precept. Like, I guess one of the first things that I would say that I love about Shannon, I could probably spend another hour talking about what I love about Shannon. Um, but probably one of the most genuine and pure people that you will run across in your lifetime. You know what I mean? Like, between her and I, there's been a space of safety, of no judgment, but also accountability that has been created and has been consistent. And I guess one of those things that you want from any black person or any person within your immediate circumference, but I definitely from from your counterpart, for the things that I think there are black men who say that they lack within their relationships, whether it be platonic, romantic, within their female counterparts. Shannon embodies that, and not only embodies it, but exudes and permeates, and all of these wonderful adjectives and verbs that I can, coagulate together to try to even come up to what she is worth, or try to surmise her value. But I mean, from the first probably marathon conversation she and I have had, probably about a myriad of things, whether it been about black people, with spirituality, and also when I say the safe spaces, her and I have not always agreed on everything. We not always agree on probably religious ideas or spiritual ideas and things of that nature, but that still doesn't change her support for me as a person, as a human, but also her support for me as a friend. And I can call her that in every sense of the actual word, what it means, and not on some, oh, I just met, oh, this is my friend. We're not five. You know what I mean? I know how to define what a friend is and a friend and is that is not. And so, I mean, she has been, I guess, nothing but that for me. Even been, a kind of a bootleg matchmaker, you know what I mean? But, we'll talk about that another show. A little, Cupid or whatever. But I mean, I think just her mind space as far as how well read she is, like Ryan said, how well she writes and expresses herself through that particular fashion of art, but also just genuine purity, even down to when she's pissed off. And I've, been on a few of those conversations where fortunately it wasn't me that was the catalyst for her festivity. But however, I was able to return the space of safety for her to be able to just kind of unload those things when, you're going through some adverse situations. And it's like
Yeah.
you still get the purest form of Shannon in whatever capacity you meet her in. It's going to be genuine, sincere, pure. And I don't feel like I've ever seen or felt like she's had an ulterior motive, some sort of underlying, underhanded type whatever. It's just been very fortunate for me. And many times over these 3 to 5 years, it sounds like a prison sentence, but it's really not, man. If I had to be, sentenced to a lifetime of friendship with Shannon, I'm cool. I'm good, man. You know what I mean? Like, let me get my Shannon time out
I
of my
appreciate you,
commissary. And I'm good
friend.
to
I'm gonna
go.
need you to put that on a
I'm
card
gonna
for my
stop it there because I could keep
birthday.
going.
I
you,
I gotta say
how
this because
how big you want this
last week
card to be? I just
I
said a
got
lot of
emotional
shit.
talking about
I'm so-
Imani, and so I'm not gonna do it this week. But I have to say that I really truly love Shannon. She's a great friend.
Yeah.
The moment I met her, and she was on as I said on the last show we did, the Black and Nerdy show, automatically thought she was like the coolest person, right? I mean, she was funny. She had this quality of she's intelligent. She like all these great qualities, right? And then eventually we became friends, and we started doing the show together. And the thing that attracted me to her as a person was, one, is her love for Black people, which is evident in the first conversation we had privately, and that wins me over right away. And her love for Black men, not just as a romantic situation, but just having love for her people, Black men and women, just love it. Because you meet a lot of Black folks who don't feel that way. And so that was something that attracted me to her. And as I've gotten to know her over the years, I mean, I do consider it a blessing to know her and to work with her. And of course, I'm sure I never drive her crazy, but there's times where she drives me crazy. And and even still, though, we've had arguments, we've disagreed with each other like big time. And the cool thing is, I think for it to be a friend with somebody or to be in a relationship with somebody, you do have to provide a space for disagreements and feel like you can disagree, but it isn't going to be like the end of the world. And one thing that she does do is she provides a space for, yeah, we may not disagree, we may not agree, we may be on the complete opposite sides of something, but she's not going to be just like, then F you then, then you go die. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like she does allow that space. And that's really important because I feel like then you can have a real friendship with somebody if you feel like you can disagree with them and it's still going to be love. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things I appreciate mostly about her, besides being so, smart. This sister got so much freaking talent just oozing through her pores. I almost want her to quit that job and just focus on, her talents. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I need to find her a sugar daddy so all she can do is just work, be creative 24/7, because sister has so much talent. And I'm just, we just talk, and I really wanted to do this on this show because, as the great Noriega, I'm talking about the rapper, not the yeah, Nori said we want to give them their flowers while they can still smell
I was like, which
them.
one?
And
I was like, Nori?
I really just want to reiterate, since we're talking about our love for Black women, and last time I checked,
Facts, shout
Shannon
out.
is a Black woman, that we give her that love because you are a tremendous human being, and I'm very happy to know you, Shannon. Um, I love to fight with you. I love she's like the sister. I I have two sisters, but she's kind of like the sister I never had. That I could like wrestle with and stuff. And I really enjoy that about her. And she's a Christian woman, like a legit Christian woman, not like only on Sunday. you know, she's wholesome adjacent. I love that. She's not all the way wholesome, but she's like wholesome is around the corner. She's like in that place around the corner from wholesome. I love that about you, Shannon. So I know 2020 is a crazy year. I know 2021 is going to be even better year. I know you have big things that you have coming out next year. We're all supporting you. And just like I said, I feel very blessed to know you. So, and I say all of this you know, with the sincerity and love. So that's how I feel. And I'm sure everybody in this chat room loves Shannon as well. So, you know,
Of course we do.
yeah, you're pretty awesome.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey man, that's my moon cricket, man. That's my moon cricket. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, I
Hey,
do got
Danny.
something to add, man, and I feel like it's very important within this context of
Hi,
this
Danny.
conversation. Um, Danny, what up, though? Um, I wanted to add that in the love for Black women, what is not commonly stated, but I feel like it's imperative to be stated here. For the trans women out here, Black women, I love y'all too. I'm not gonna say that I understand everything, or but my lack of understanding does not exclude you from my love and my protection, and for also my fight for you as well. You're not excluded, and you know what I mean when Black Lives Matter, but all Black Lives Matter. So I just felt it necessary to also say that for whoever may be watching it. And I ain't running for no political office or nothing like that. This ain't me. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, I'm never in a space of where I'm offering to pandering, but I'm seeing this conversation happen far too often for it not to be mentioned, for it not to be acknowledged, and for those that feel excluded from these conversations or excluded from these marches and these protests, because there are a lot of women that, within the last week, 2 weeks, I've heard five or more different accounts where Black trans women have been killed. By whom, I don't know. And I don't know all the details. All the details are not coming out as quickly or as explicitly as George Floyd or Breonna Taylor or any of these different things. But I guess even with that, we got some traction or some action in regards to George Floyd, but I feel like the fire seems to have died now when it comes to Breonna Taylor. I've not heard as much. I've not heard the same vigor, the same fight, and that happened before George Floyd was. While we got to witness that, and can still see it countless amount of times, her name, it does not escape me. Her plight or that situation does not escape me because that's a Black brother and a sister. She is no longer living, and it's, from the last I know, he's in jail for protecting his home, for attempting to protect his home and his Black woman, um, for these same injustices and these egregiousness to go unspoken of. I think the last that I heard, the latest that I've heard of that is that maybe one of those police officers have been fired, but I don't know if official charges have been brought, if there is an indictment, if there is going to be a trial, or any of those things. I do know they said that, I don't know, where was that, Kentucky, that they're getting eradicating no knock warrants, which is asinine to me that it's even a thing in 2020. But all of these things seems like can be overwhelming, can be a lot, but I'm like, I don't want anybody to be confused. Anybody in the alphabet community, and forgive me, that ain't really a joke. It's just too many letters that's added every year, and I can't keep up. But all of y'all are included into that, you know what I mean? Into that, I'm like, everybody deserves to be fought for. All of us deserve to be caped for, and we don't need to be out here placating, you know what I mean, for some, on some bullshit, man. So
That's why
uh
you my mom cricket, brother.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that
Y'all
before we
racist.
even got any further, or even
So
got off the
Ryan,
show.
how can we get you on social media,
Uh,
and we should be on the lookout for with you?
Go to Hustle Zone or Hustle Zone TV. Right now, we are raising funds to build a documentary called "The World's First Living Documentary," and it will be an account for oral history and just oral accounts of of Black and Latino people around the world. It's a big endeavor. It was something that I envisioned for a very long time. I think the only time oral history is valuable is when it's under oath. But any other time it's not valuable, and I just want to get the voices of our people so that we could tell our story and educate people. Like it's a place where you can go to educate yourself about people's experience. The last thing I would say is that blacks and Latinos are not a monolith. Everyone's different, come from different cultures, they have different point of views on life, and we're hoping to capture this all in this living documentary. So if you guys can, please go and support the project by going to gofundme.com/F/Hustle Zone TV.
Here for it.
Just as a side note, documenting, especially our history, you can do it as if you just document your family's history. Just pull out your camera, if you have a grandma that's still alive, and she can speak on the history of your family. It's so important. All of this stuff is important, man. So I'm gonna sit down my family and and record our history, because at some point it's not going to be around, and it's just an important thing to do. So, and right now we all are cameramen, right? We all have access to documentation, material, whether it's our phone, our DSLRs, our iPads take video, So, just that's very important, and I'm totally with you with that, Ryan. All right, so Anthony, what do you have? Social media as well as should we be on the lookout for anything?
Social media, you can catch me on Twitter. I'm getting back into Twitter. So Twitter is free for real. That's FREEPHAREAL, FREEPHAREAL, free for real on Twitter. On Instagram, Woodshed Pictures, spelled correctly the way that you hear that. WOODSHEDPICTURES. Woodshed Pictures. Now, what I have coming, I say what I'm working on. I'm still piecing together my camera equipment. I just recently purchased a camera about a month ago, so I'm getting back. Like I said, I'm returning back to the film industry, and that's where my passion and my love has been. I've done a number of things in the past, and I just feel like it's time for me to really jump back into it. Documentaries are where I live, or where I love to live. I got a couple short film ideas and things of that nature that I'm working on. So, but there are a lot of documentaries. There are going to be documentaries on one, Black manhood. Uh, Another documentary is going to be on what it's going to be called Surviving DNA, kind of on the play of like surviving R. Kelly and surviving Neverland Ranch or whatever. But this is going to be DNA stands for depression and anxiety. So surviving DNA, what that means as far as us as melanated people and what it is that how we have to cope with things and how we can better cope and how our families can actually identify what it is the person who's going through these things without necessarily having to feel like you got to throw them away or for that person feeling like thrown away because they don't feel understood. Also, Black BDSM. That's a documentary, a docuseries that I'm working on. There are a lot of people that are involved in that world. So just everything is just kind of very uh, Afrocentric, as it were. You know what I mean? And I didn't even think of doing a fundraiser, but I got about 2K that I got to finish getting up to get the rest of my camera equipment so I can film. I am the director of photography. I am also the editor and all of that good stuff, but I got to get a couple more pieces of equipment to sit me where I need to be so I can travel across this country as I start in the next 2 to 3 weeks heading out west on that journey.
No,
So yeah,
not only
I'll
fans.
post. I'll figure something out, whether it be Cash App, GoFundMe, something. I'll even put a list of the camera equipment that I'm gonna have. Hey man, I will take pictures of
You
my
know,
feet too. I don't care
COVID, the
who looking at it,
OnlyFans,
whatever. It
like
don't matter.
new
Son.
accounts
Like,
went up like 500,
all of
600%.
that, man. Hey, I'm not. Um, oh, I already know, and people paying. That's why I'm like, I'm not opposed to sex
Before the
work. I will take
COVID,
shoddy
after.
pictures of my elbows if you need me to. I will. Let's get it popping out here. I will luxury. I will. I will send all the ladies out pictures of my wet beard or something. Pour some milk on my beard. Let them imaginations run wild or something. I work it out. Hey man, we'll get it popping. But that's where you'll find me. I will end up posting something, you know what I mean, whether it be on Facebook or Twitter. And probably might not be anything more than just my Cash App. Hey, this is what I'm doing. I'll send receipts, literal receipts of what I purchased and how I purchased it and all that. If you need confirmation as far as what it is that you're supporting. But I'm definitely on the rise and I'm on the move. And I'm looking forward to this next leg of this journey.
Amen.
We at high
Real
time now in
strong.
2020.
That's for sure. And shout
God
out to
only
your
knows what the fuck
bro,
is
by
gonna
the way,
happen in the
Dedrick.
remainder of the year. We
You
finna
know,
go
we all
into the
love
third
him.
quarter real soon. So
I know.
oh yeah.
Look,
We
Shout out,
about
you
to get the
shout out,
nuptials
shout
soon as
out,
you
bullshit
do your,
popping.
shout
you
You know
gotta
what I
do,
mean?
you gotta do
I
your
got I'm
toast
gonna be the
too.
best
Yeah.
man, get my best man
So
action on. You know what I mean? Oh yeah,
yeah, big
to my
shout out.
main moon
Yeah.
cricket,
out.
All
my
right,
brother
Okay,
from a literal
Shannon, how can
mother.
we get you
But
social
that's a
media? What
whole
should we
other
be on the
podcast
lookout
show.
for?
social media, Twitter, IG, Facebook, all the same name, Shannon Ford, like the president, hyphen Jefferson, like the president. I'm still doing Sunday lives on Facebook, about 9 o'clock-ish. Still here Monday nights with you. Lord help us. We got a couple of shirts coming out, a couple of masks coming out, and putting my quotes to good use so they can be available for purchase. Got 2 books coming out in 2021, Dismantling Daddy Dysfunctions, May 21st, 2021. And then Marrying Mommy, August 14th, 2021. So show up, look, support your sister.
Can't wait to. You can get me at Kente F. The website is indieradio.org. And of course, on Instagram, it's Kente Ferguson at gmail.com. You know, I love you guys all. And hopefully, you guys will have a great remainder of your week. Stay tuned. We'll be doing a little bit of the post show, but have a great week and God bless you.